Hi. I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking, and this time I've been thinking about being a manager. And the reason I've been thinking about being a manager is because I've been a manager for about 15 years, and it's taught me so much about people and is probably one of the reasons why I started this channel. So I thought it might be interesting to share some of my thoughts and my experiences of being a people manager. So you find out a lot about people when you manage them, and it's quite a privileged position to be in, where people trust you and confide in you. And I've always said that one of my favourite subjects is the complexity of being human. And by working closely with so many people over the years, as their manager, I've learned a lot about exactly that subject. How people cope with the various ups and downs of life, what motivates them, what upsets them, and just generally how they approach life. Being a manager can be a bit like being a parent or a counsellor, a close friend, as well as someone who oversees your time at work. And I find that you can't help but get quite close to people in your team, as you find out about them and their lives and you follow their career journeys. But then often they leave and you have to start all over again. So it's quite an emotional journey too. I've had lots of training in the various aspects of being a manager, but those are really just guidelines and helpful tips because the real learning comes from dealing with real people and real situations. I've always kept in mind a couple of things that I learned in my training, and that was firstly to never underestimate the power that my words can have on the people in my team. And also that people don't tend to leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers. So I try to always make sure that I treat people respectfully, and in difficult situations I listen to what they tell me and I try to be honest and reliable in return. And if someone has done a great job, I tell them that, and if they haven't, then I try to find out why. So what have I learnt about people over all those years as a manager? Well, I've never met a person who didn't care about the money, but that isn't generally the thing that motivates them in their everyday work. Those things tend to vary from person to person. Some people need recognition and for their efforts to be noticed. Some people need to see progression and that the effort that they put in leads them to a higher level job or a higher wage. And some people want guidance and reassurance, whereas others want autonomy and to show that they don't need anyone else in order to be successful. Some people want to quietly be left alone, whereas other people want to be very visible and to have a chance to show their work to other managers and higher level people. Some people want to have friends at work, and others want to just do the job and keep their interactions with other people to a minimum. And a lot of people seem to be motivated by their own high standards for themselves. They appreciate the recognition from their manager, but really the person that they truly answer to is themselves. And they get quite upset with themselves if they make a mistake or drop the ball on something. And some people don't like having a manager. They get quite offended by the idea that somebody else might get to decide how they spend some of their time. And some people just don't seem to like going to work, and they find ways to do the bare minimum without putting their heart into anything. So, as you can probably tell, I've worked with a really wide variety of people over the years that I've been a manager, and I'm grateful to all of those people for teaching me so much about the complexities of being human. Even the difficult ones have provided some learning that has probably helped me in the end, even if it was challenging at the time. And there certainly are some challenges that come with being a manager. Maybe people who aren't suitable for the role but don't realise it, or people who find it difficult to be part of a team because they prefer not having to think about anyone else. Or maybe people who think their performance in the job is better than it actually is. And those things can all cause a challenge. And the nature of being a manager in a career type job is that you do get close to people in your team and you form friendships. But then sometimes, as a manager, you have to tell people things that aren't easy for them to hear. Maybe they didn't meet their objectives, or they didn't get the promotion, or they didn't get the pay rise that they thought they deserved. Or maybe even the business has decided that their role isn't needed anymore. And those are all really difficult things to oversee as a manager. And I think often part of the reason that some people don't want to become a manager. And I wouldn't blame them for that at all. I've been through all of those situations and it's no fun. I get attached to the people in my team, so it's awful if I have to deliver bad news to them. I try to make sure that I know them well enough, that I know how they prefer to be spoken to, maybe straight to the point or more gently. And I've learnt a lot from how people react so that I can approach those situations with a bit more confidence. I never set out to be a manager, but I do think in the end it's a role that suits me quite well. And I've had a lot of nice feedback from my team members that they appreciate my support and how I've helped them to take their careers in the direction that they want to go, and with confidence. And I'm quite good at being organised and keeping track of lots of different things, and I do genuinely care about people and their experience at work. I'm not threatened by people who are really great at their jobs, and I want each person to get what they need out of their experience at work. I like helping people to develop and grow their confidence so that they can build the sort of career that they want. And it's also grown my own confidence because I've been in quite a few challenging situations over the years. And so I think things like that help you to realise what you're capable of when you need to be. And that confidence spills over into situations outside of work too. And I feel like I handle challenges and confrontations in my own life a bit better because of the experiences I've had at work that have taught me some valuable lessons. I know I've mentioned this before, but having to deliver presentations at work is one of the reasons that I developed the confidence to start making these videos. So I've really got a lot to thank my job for. I'm also thankful for the friendships I've made with other people and the laughs that we have at work. And being a manager is a nice way to build a relationship with someone at work. There's always a reason to check in with each other, to find out how things are going, and then you can just build on the relationship from there. And I've got several long-term friends who've been in my team at work, and we've kept the friendship going afterwards. I'm not planning to leave my job, so unless I get replaced by an AI, I expect I'll be there until I retire, which will be no more than 8 more years, and maybe less if I can afford it. I do feel lucky that I enjoy my job, but I also know that life is short and, things can change in an instant, and so although I enjoy it, I'm also excited to get to the next stage in my life so that I can plan for an exciting retirement while I'm still young enough to enjoy it. I've made plenty of videos about my retirement planning, so feel free to check those out if you're interested. And I've got a fairly small team at the moment of 8 people. But I've had anywhere up to about 16 or 17 people. And I prefer the smaller team as it's easier to get to know them and to give each person enough of my time. And team meetings are also a bit easier with 8 rather than 16 people, which can be a bit intimidating and not really possible for each person to get a chance to speak. But it isn't just the team size that's changed over the years, the approach to management has too. And when I first became a manager, it was much more about telling people what to do and monitoring their performance. And they were expected to keep their troubles outside of work, um, and not bring them to their manager. They're just to get on with their job. And it's quite different now because it's much more about getting their buy-in about the things that need to be done and going on the journey together. People are encouraged to tell their managers about their well-being, both inside and outside of work, and to reach out for support when they need it. And on balance, I do prefer the current way of doing things, but I find that it can be a lot harder to deal with people who aren't performing well. There's so many other factors to take into account now before you can decide on what should be expected from someone at work. And it's a good thing because it means we're treating people as individuals, but it can be hard for a manager trying to assess how much should be expected from each person in a team who all have the same job. And it can be difficult to know whether someone needs to be pushed a bit harder if their current performance doesn't seem good enough, or if the other circumstances in their life mean it's okay to expect less from them. It can be a lot to expect from a team to trust their manager to have made all the right decisions about that, when the work hasn't been spread out evenly and they can't necessarily be told why. And team members are also invited to anonymously comment on the performance of their manager and how supported and safe they feel in their team. So that can be another reason why it can be difficult for a manager to push someone to improve their performance. So while it's an improvement that bad managers can't really get away with it anymore, it does add an extra layer of complication for a manager that needs to address some underperformance. They're probably going to get some anonymous negative feedback from that person, and then the manager's manager will want to address that. And I'd say that's definitely a side of people management that has got a bit more uncomfortable in recent years. And it's much easier if there isn't any underperformance going on in the team. So I think it's important to hire very carefully when there's a vacancy to be filled. And I might do another video about that subject one day because I've interviewed and hired a lot of people in the last 10 years or so. So I'll have a think about whether there are enough interesting stories about that to share in a video. So today has really just been about reflecting on the things I've learned and the experience of being a people manager, and I hope that it's been interesting. If you're thinking about becoming a manager, I hope it's been helpful. And if you've got some experiences of your own to share, I would love to hear them if you would like to leave a comment. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!